Welcome back, guys. CFL content for the fans, by the fans, and we got a big one here tonight. This is the start of Winnipeg, Saskatchewan of the season. So I really want to get into this. However, first, before we get into that, we got to talk about today's sponsor, which is BetStamp. Now, BetStamp is not a traditional sports betting website. It does not offer you one money line. It will actually offer you many money lines from a variety of sources and other betting websites. So that way you can make the most for every bet you make. So make sure when you download it from the App Store, or if you use the link in the description below to the website, you will use code CFL Central, so that way they know that you're coming from us and you're saving money. So that way you can make the most out of your bets and get the biggest possible payout instead of whatever just your app will offer you. So thanks again to BetStamp for sponsoring this video. Let's get back into it. So, Winnipeg, Saskatchewan. It has been quite the season up until then. Winnipeg first in the West, Saskatchewan fourth in the West. So Saskatchewan's had a bit of trouble with some injuries. Bombers as well, but not quite to the same extent. However, this is the thing that's always interesting about Labor Day and the Banjo Bowl is seemingly no matter where each team is in the standings, it's very, very even come these two games. And so normally what I do is I predict 1-1. I predict Saskatchewan wins in Labor Day and the Bombers win the Banjo Bowl. I don't know if I'm doing that this year. Not because I think that the Riders are bad. I think the Riders actually have a lot of good things going for them. However, with some of their injuries still and having guys like Couture coming back for the Bombers, Alexander coming back for the Bombers, Ellingson we're still not sure about. I really think that the Bombers overall have less things holding them back. And as well, the Bombers are number one in the league for a reason. They are 10-1 on the season with their first loss going to the Alouettes just a few weeks ago. And the Riders, however, having a big victory over the BC Lions this past week. So Riders are going to look to catapult on that. Beat the number 2 team in the West just so they can go the next week and beat the number 1. So we're going to dive into this one quite a bit. That's why it's warranting its own video. And Zach Collaros on the season, 2,749 yards, really solid. And Cody Fajardo, 21-48, so not terrible for him. However, he's spent a little bit more time out than Collaros has, as Mason Fine has been in a little bit. Brady Oliveira had a little bit of a rough start, but he finally got back into it with 604 yards on the season. And then this is where it really gets impressive for Winnipeg. Receiving yards, Dalton Schoen, 732. He has been absolutely everything and more that the Bombers could have hoped for and expected. And then you got Donald Rutledge Jr. leading in tackles for the Bombers with 48. However, Larry Dean has had a bit more success with the Roughriders with 68 on the season. But then for interceptions, it's also extremely, extremely tight between Nick Taylor with the Bombers with 3 and Derek Moncrief with 4 for the Roughriders. In terms of sacks, you got Pete Robertson, who's gotten 8 on the season, and then Willie Jefferson with 4. Although keep in mind, whenever there's Willie Jefferson, there's Jackson Jeffcoat. They come as a pair. So, you put them together, you'll get all the stuff that Pete Robertson's been doing. And yeah, honestly, this is going to be so hype. Now, one of the things I will say that is interesting, excuse me, despite a little bit of the rough start that Brady Oliveira has had, Jamal Morrow has been quite impressive as well. He's had a little bit of rough patches. However, I'd say the running game is pretty damn even. Now, the thing that's really cool here is if you go and look at the stats here, points per game, points allowed per game, all this and that, it is unbelievably close. Unbelievably. Now, in terms of points allowed, that has hurt the Riders a bit. They are losing a little bit more than they'd probably prefer in that department with an average of 23.5 points allowed per game as opposed to 19.2 for the Bombers. The Bombers, I think here, they have to do 2 things. I think the Bombers do better in a low-scoring game. Normally because of their defensive power and just if they can really shut down on our team's offense, as long as Collaros plays decent, that's always enough for them to get the win. This is not a situation where the Bombers are going to want to get into a kicking showdown, as the Labor Day Classic and the Banjo Bowl are games that have more stress. And actual proof of this is the Bombers, believe it or not, when they were practicing with these big speakers really loud with fake crowd noise in preparation for Labor Day, which is kind of an interesting thing, how a team would need to prepare in that way for a specific game. You know, this is not something that the Bombers do every day. They're doing it because they know Saskatchewan's going to be loud and rowdy. The same way I honestly wouldn't be surprised if the Roughriders did that coming into Winnipeg. I think that's the smart thing to do. And so this is going to be really exciting. Normally we only get 2 games between these two teams each season. This season we're getting 3 with a game on September 4th, 10th, and 30th. 2 in Winnipeg, 1 in Saskatchewan. This is the one in Saskatchewan. Saskatchewan is going to want this win. They really want to close that gap with Calgary and hopefully pass them. Because even though I think 4th in the West is pretty secure in the sense of that you'll have a crossover. In the event that the Ticats start playing a bit better and that discrepancy in the East kind of grows, there's a possibility that could get shut down. So I think Saskatchewan is going to really want to solidify their spot here. And beating the number 1 and 2 team in both the West and the league is a really, really good way to do that. This is going to be a really close one. Do I want to give... I'm going to say Winnipeg. I'm going to say Winnipeg. However, I think it is under 3-point difference. Under a field goal. I think that's how close this game is going to be. Because like I said before, no matter how good or bad each team is doing, they both show up for Labor Day and they both show up for the Banjo Bowl. So I am beyond excited for this game. I'll be watching this game actually from Vancouver. This will be interesting. I'll be out of town watching from there. However, I cannot wait for this game. I know you can't too. If any of you guys are going to it, please let me know. I'd love to chat with you. And yeah, make sure you guys like, share, and comment down below your predictions for this game. I want to hear them. And I'll see you guys next time.